Indonesia is fighting a war in every suburb, every slum, and every city. While bomb attacks grab the headlines, there's a quieter, more insidious threat destroying millions of lives. I'm Steve Chow. On this episode of 101 East, we investigate Indonesia's war on drugs and ask, is their strategy working?
Indonesia demonizes drug users with some of the world's harshest narcotics laws. Here, addiction is seen as a security concern, not a health issue.
Dari masyarakat ada, memandang sebelah mata aja.
Di industri itu mungkin masih memandang kita itu penuh dengan diskriminasi.
According to government figures, there are 4.5 million addicts in Indonesia, like Bambang. Ever since he was 13, he's been snorting, shooting up and smoking hard drugs. But he's no junkie from a slum. Bambang went to university and his parents have office jobs. The 32-year-old says since mixing with the wrong crowd, he can't kick Indonesia's narcotic of choice, crystal meth, or shabu as it's known locally.
Mengapa kamu senang menggunakan shabu? Mengapa atraktif?
Crystal meth has a different sensation to heroin. Shabu keeps me energized and happy. My friends used to prefer marijuana and heroin. Now crystal meth is everywhere because it's easy to produce and it's popular.
Under the cover of night, Bambang and his friends often head to back alley crack dens to score, smoke and shoot up crystal meth.
Gak dapat nyawa lagi.
It's risky. As a user, being caught with meth, no matter how small the amount, could land you in jail.
Itu minimal hukumannya 4 tahun.
If I was caught with this quantity of drugs,
Karena minimal 4 tahun.
I'd get 4 years.
Tapi ketika
That's the minimum for possession.
lebih dari itu.
Indonesia says drug abuse is a national emergency, or darurat, and use heavy punishments. In 2015, the government executed 14 people, all narcotics traffickers. The public agrees with the tough approach, but it's not affecting those who deal like Bambang.
Kalau saya sendiri,
For many of us, Indonesia's harsh laws like the death penalty don't scare us. We're so addicted. And selling drugs is the easy way to make money, even in bad economic times.
On the outskirts of his hometown, we're driving to what's known there as Meth Village. It's at the heart of the local trade. Before, Indonesia was a transit country for drugs. Now it's a key narcotics market in Asia. According to Bambang, whole villages are embroiled in the trade.
sini awalnya saya kurang.
In each house, people are selling drugs. They provide small rooms out the back where you take them. The bigger the house, the richer the dealer.
Dan di tiap rumah-rumah pun mereka.
Dan menurut Mas Bambang, mengapa daerah ini penting bagi perdagangan narkotika di Indonesia?
Filipina, Singapore, Thailand.
Meth comes from the Philippines, Singapore and Thailand into this area directly. From here, it's sold across Java and Bali. That's why I come here, because the quality is good and the drugs are cheap.
It's too dangerous for us to get out of the car. Police have been killed on raids here. The dealers are on high alert.
For now, it's still easy to score drugs here. Many houses have watchmen who look for outsiders. But since police started aggressive operations, it's quieter. Before, there used to be a lot of people doing drug deals here. It was like happy hour.
In the capital, Jakarta, another violent chapter of the drug war is unfolding. 3 days ago, 2 police officers, with the help of an informant, raided this row of houses. Inside this one, 3 men were injecting meth. When the police burst in, one of the users screamed for help, alerting a nearby gang.
The gang then killed the informant and started to attack the policeman, who then jumped into that river over there to try and escape them.
One policeman drowned, the other one survived, but with serious stab wounds. Several days later, the authorities hit back, shooting 2 members of the gang dead in separate operations. The local police chief says a show of force is required.
We have to fight this war on drugs everywhere. They have to be cleaned off the streets of Jakarta and eradicated throughout Indonesia. This case is a warning for us as police to be vigilant and ready for heavy-duty action against drug suspects.
Every week, law enforcement agencies gather the media and parade the low-level drug users, dealers and the narcotics they've snared. It's their way of telling the public they are winning the drugs war, but critics say it's only creating a climate of fear.
So this neighborhood called Boncos is very famous of the drug trafficking.
Suhendro Sugiarto works for the PKNI, Indonesia's biggest network of drug user advocacy groups.
They shoot up actually over the wall, across this wall.
His groups provide clean needle programs and other services in troubled areas like this. Since the drug war escalated, they've also seen a rise in a related and equally deadly problem, HIV. Now junkies fear carrying a syringe could get them thrown into jail, leading them to share needles instead.
They're afraid to carry the needles.
Yeah, because the police. We'll be facing the next HIV outbreak if the situation doesn't change, for sure.
In the past, hordes of junkies flocked to this shooting gallery, a garbage dump affectionately called heroin heaven. Now, because of the crackdown, they've scattered to more hidden locations, making it harder to help them. Suhendro says most people reuse dirty needles in a community where HIV is rife.
It's creating the difficulty for the outreach worker to give away clean needles and to collect used needles because people smoke here. And it's put us in danger of HIV epidemics, particularly in this area.
From the courts to the jails, Indonesia's criminal justice system is under pressure from the drug war. Rudy Wedhasmara works pro bono as a defence lawyer. He says the narcotics laws are unclear and unfair.
There's no difference in definition here between a drug user and a drug trafficker. Our laws criminalise the victim. If someone is buying a drug for their own use, it's described by law as being involved in an illicit trade. Our laws also say if a person is caught with a gram of a drug, they should be sent to rehab, but instead they're sent to jail.
Rudy's clients come from all walks of life, though he says most of them are poor. He created an NGO which not only provides legal advice, but also drug counselling and rehabilitation.
Ini nanti ruang konseling. Jadi nanti konseling itu waktu-waktu tertentu gitu ya, sesuai jadwalnya. Masnya kalau selama ini sudah, kalau boleh tahu awalnya ini sudah berapa lama menggunakan narkotika?
Mulai awal. Ya, hampir bisa dibilang 15 tahun lah.
10-20 tahun yang lalu.
20 years ago, narcotics like shabu and ecstasy were only used by rich people. Now, even lower-class professions like rickshaw drivers and factory workers are using these drugs.
Today, Rudy is running a workshop in a graveyard, a popular hangout for junkies trying to hide their habit.
Ini ada brosur, mungkin teman-teman ada yang sudah dapatkan, tapi sepertinya ada yang masih belum gitu ya.
It's an opportunity to teach drug users about their rights.
Punya pengalaman ditangkap nggak?
Oh pernah, pernah, saya banyak pernah.
Itu kapan kejadiannya?
Ya kurang lebih ya udah 2 tahunan lah.
Itu karena apa? Karena kriminalnya atau karena kepemilikan narkoba? Ya, narkoba. Apa?
Rudy says police often exploit narcotics laws to entrap addicts.
Bahkan orang yang
The narcotics laws are often used by police, prosecutors and judges to solicit bribes. We call the process wani piro, which is local slang for how much.
Jail officials say because of the harsh narcotics laws, between 60 and 70% of the prison population are drug offenders. The country's biggest jail, Chimpanang, even has a special section to accommodate the growing number of drug criminals. Chief Warden Andika Prasetya gave us rare but limited access where we could only film prison programs like this concert. And whilst we couldn't speak with prisoners directly or see the crammed cell blocks, he admits drug offenders struggle for support in his overcrowded prison.
Di mana lapas narkotika Jakarta ini
we are only capable of holding 1,084 prisoners. But today we have 2,933 inmates. It causes many problems. There's not enough clean water for them. There's little room for resting or rehab activities.
Here, 1,000 prisoners undergo rehab classes. Today, they're conducting an exercise where prisoners air their problems by confronting each other. The jail's treatment program, Criminon, is based on the controversial teachings of L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Scientology. But in a system with nothing else to offer in the jail, the chief warden says it works.
When we use this method, we notice changes in their behaviors. They are happy, more obedient, and disciplined. They look cleaner and tidier compared to others who haven't done the program.
The warden is trying to offer job training on top of rehab, so prisoners don't fall back into drug dependency. But cakes in the jailhouse bakery aren't the only thing inmates have been cooking up. In 2013, a meth lab was discovered inside the jail, and 3 guards were involved in the scandal.
We all know there was one time that we found drug production activities on a small scale. This case is an indicator for us to be more aware of the involvement of prison staff in trafficking. Those staff involved were fired, and some were even convicted.
The warden concedes many corrupt guards are still involved in smuggling narcotics into the jail.
Yes, we can confirm that the effort to do drug smuggling inside prison is still happening. But it's not as often as in the past. I don't deny bribes and corruption occurs in the jail. Our staff are human beings. They can get influenced by criminals. But I am sure by boosting the morality of guards, it will improve.
But Bambang, the meth addict, says drugs are still more readily available in jail than toothpaste, with deadly consequences. While serving time in 2009, he and many of his cellmates contracted HIV.
In jail, I used heroin, which was easy to find. But it was hard to conceal needles, so one syringe was shared around the cell block. I knew about the dangers of HIV, but the urge to use was overpowering.
Rudy says prison is the worst place possible for addicts.
Prison is no solution, as they remain addicted. The fight against narcotics just sacrifices the victims even more.
Rudy's client says he was jailed for being a dealer because he had planned to share a gram of heroin with a friend. Drug treatment was part of his punishment, but the medical officials who provide that service wanted a bribe to treat him. Now he says he can't leave drugs behind.
I don't want this addiction. I want to be a normal person with a normal job, to help my parents. That's my dream.
Rudy says most of his clients want help for their addiction, but that is not going to happen.
They're overcrowded cells. People sleep together in the one place. And users are together with dealers, so they learn new ways to be criminals and get drugs easily because inspections aren't strict.
Even Indonesia's narcotics crime agency, the BNN, has little faith in the existing system. The agency's chief is recommending they build a drugs jail, with crocodiles, tigers and piranhas guarding the perimeter because wild animals can't be corrupted. The plan is awaiting approval from the Law Ministry.
Kita paham, memang itu ada tingkat kesulitan yang luar biasa.
Of course, we understand it's difficult to keep crocodiles, tigers and piranhas. And people think our plans are satirical. But people also get hysterical when a few die in a terrorist attack. Yet every day 30 to 40 people die of drug overdose. We need to be serious because drugs are the enemy.
But it's the BNN who produces the statistics that support the government's drug war. Academics question these numbers, arguing both addiction and overdose rates rely on unorthodox methods and anecdotal evidence.
This research was conducted by professors and doctors from the University of Indonesia. There is no exaggeration. This was an independent research project.
Such statistics give them the mandate to push their own agenda. Currently, they burn narcotics from drug busts, but their latest proposal would see them kill drug dealers by force-feeding them their own contraband. While controversial, the BNN spokesperson says a tough line is needed to combat drugs in Indonesia.
Our boss has a strong commitment to a war on drug smugglers because these syndicates are planning systematic mass murder of our youth. He instructs us to use our weapons to uphold the law. Don't keep the weapons in the garage. It means BNN should be firm. For example, if a smuggler is against us, shoot him.
The BNN's solution for first-time drug offenders is forced rehabilitation. Up in the Javanese mountains, I'm visiting one of the main rehab centres funded by the BNN. In facilities like this, Indonesia aims to rehabilitate 100,000 addicts a year and wipe out drug addiction in a decade by quadrupling that yearly target. Rio Saputra voluntarily checked into rehab here 4 months ago. He'd become hooked on meth and ecstasy shortly after leaving school. A 2-week detox program, then a strict timetable of prayer, psychiatric and group sessions is helping Rio find his feet.
Mengapa pusat rehabilitasi ini bagus sekali?
Awal mungkin saya menggunakan drugs, saya mungkin disfungsi.
I have changed so much since coming here. I was a dysfunctional person who was never home. Here I follow the regulations.
Saya mengenal sense of community.
And there's a sense of community. In the past, I didn't care about society. Now I have my dignity back.
Itu mungkin yang saya rasakan pada saat ini.
Rio is now a strong supporter of the drug war and forced rehabilitation.
Saya setuju karena dengan
those who don't want rehab don't know the true meaning of it.
Mungkin mereka yang belum mau
the fear these places will take away their human rights. But there should be more places like it. Because when I was addicted, I didn't know how to take that first step of find structure. I think whether you come here forcefully or not, you have to deal with difficult situations. But in the end, you will be grateful.
But drug user advocacy groups oppose this approach. They say it's a system ripe for exploitation because there are financial incentives for anyone who turns in addicts to these facilities.
The police are forcing people to get into rehab using the name of the law. They're forcibly entering places like nightclubs, student boarding houses, and even residential areas, and getting people to do urine tests. And in doing that, they're breaching human rights.
Studies show forced rehabilitation efforts in other countries have failed because addicts usually relapse. But the woman in charge of this facility is determined to make a difference.
It's our duty to motivate them, and it can't be done in 2 days. It's a long process.
She says the challenge is there aren't enough rehab centres to meet the demand.
We want to reach 400,000 participants a year, but most facilities aren't ready. Last year, Indonesia only treated 40,000 people.
And the other problem is there's no standard practice for addiction treatment. The 400 rehab centres across the country use vastly different methods. Take this government-funded Islamic treatment centre. It uses a cold turkey approach, where the only treatment on offer is an early morning cold shower.
Bagaimana air dingin membantu pecandu?
A study conducted by a professor from Japan claimed bathing at dawn energizes us. We order addicts to shower at that time because it prepares them for activities and lessons. The cold water is considered medicine that can refresh the body of the drug addicts. While they are taking the shower, they pray to God to give forgiveness.
Instead of methadone or medicine to help fight withdrawal, drug users are given coconut water mixed with honey.
One of the reasons is because the Prophet Muhammad consumed honey as the main drink. We choose coconut water for detoxification because it's a natural ingredient that does not contain any chemical substance.
For some, it works. 15 years ago, Rudy, the pro bono lawyer, was a patient here. After 2 stints, he became clean. But the methods back then were even tougher.
In the early days, my legs were chained and tied with string. According to the officials here, feet were chained for safety when experiencing withdrawal.
At his home, Rudy says he became hooked on meth, heroin and ecstasy during high school because of the encouragement of his older brother, who was also an addict.
The worst time was when I overdosed on heroin. My legs were paralyzed. I had to use a catheter to urinate, and I was in hospital for 3 months. I was only 20 years old.
Rudy stole from his parents to feed his addiction. The turning point was when he went to jail. For Rudy, that seems a lifetime ago. Now he's a family man with 3 kids. To gain redemption, he wants to spend the rest of his life helping others.
Most of my friends overdosed and are dead because of using narcotics. It makes me feel so guilty because it was me that introduced them to drugs. This community service that I provide helps those in need and helps me atone for my sins.
As a survivor and fighter of the drug war, Rudy believes Indonesia needs to rethink its harsh approach.
From my experience, I recovered with the help and support of a community. That's why I'm here, to help other drug users, and I think those who've struggled through addiction. Arresting addicts is the easiest way, but not the right way. The government is not entitled to penalise all drugs, and it won't solve the problem. We need a humane approach.
At treatment centres across Indonesia, thousands still try to shake the grip of addiction. But strict laws and jail terms to combat drugs aren't solving the problem. Every year, Indonesia spends billions of dollars to fight its drug war. But the health and social fallout from such hardline measures are of far greater cost.